So thank you so much. It's great to see you. How do you feel about Lex Wexner getting this, billionaire treatment?
Great to see you.
Yeah, well, nice to see you all too, and thanks for having me. Yeah, so it's really not, it should be pretty telling to everyone that he had Congress come to him instead of having to go to Congress. Exactly how Leslie Wexner operates. He's the richest man in Ohio. As I've documented in my books and a series of articles, he's been linked to crimes that have been covered up by the Columbus Police Department, leaving murders, among other things, unsolved to allow him to continue to engage in the impunity that he has enjoyed pretty much his, ever since he began engaging in criminal activity, which, as far as I can tell, at least goes back to at some point in the early 1980s. Around the time he was, becoming a billionaire, which I believe was in 1985 or so. And I mean, honestly, Congress has said that they're going to release the deposition and videos of it, and are making it like a big show that there's been accountability because Wexner, who was named was named a co-conspirator, and they redacted that. That he's finally been interviewed in connection with his role in Jeffrey Epstein's network. I mean, it's just honestly bonkers. I think what we can anticipate to see in that video, if and when it is released, is a lot of softball questions, Wexner denying everything, and then being like, yeah, okay, thanks for your time.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for flying out. I hope you had a nice lunch here at my mansion in Ohio, but I'm not going to Washington, D.C. anytime soon. You've seen now a former PM in Norway arrested. We have Prince Andrew arrested in the UK. I think those are the only two.
He was released.
Oh, he was released? Okay.
He was released after 11 to 12 hours, I believe.
Okay. So,
yes.
But my question is, that's the only two. One of them's been released. Do you think we're going to see any other actual arrests in the United States, prosecutions?
Yeah, I don't anticipate Leslie Wexner being arrested at any point. He is far too powerful, and his money is everywhere. And honestly, he has extremely deep ties to numerous officials in the Israeli government through his philanthropies. He focused pretty much the bulk of the Wexner Foundation on training up prominent figures, first in the U.S. And the Jewish community in particular. And now those Wexner fellows, essentially run AIPAC. It has an extremely close relationship with AIPAC, obviously one of the most powerful lobbying groups in the United States. And the other side of his leadership training via his foundation has been with Israeli public officials who have, these relationships as a result of that. With Wexner, and I doubt, given, AIPAC's influence, as well as, what you touched on earlier with Israel's role with Epstein, it just does not seem particularly likely in any capacity. And I would also refer to the fact that one of the things that will never be investigated is the role of Epstein and also Wexner in this scandal that was covered up in the mid-1990s under the Clinton administration that's remembered today as Chinagate, but was obviously a lot larger than that. It was a smuggling operation that utilized Southern Air Transport, which you'll remember as the CIA front that was used to smuggle drugs and weapons during the Iran-Contra era. After the Iran-Contra era, the Iran-Contra crowd utilized the same network again to facilitate Chinagate, and they used Southern Air Transport, which came into direct connection to be dominant in that same period of time, was dominated by Leslie Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein, and they had it relocated not that far from New Albany, Ohio, just to run their cargo, ostensibly for the limited, from the Rickenbacker Airport in Ohio to Hong Kong. And people like Ohio's Inspector General called it the Mayor Lansky route because he argued they were affiliated with the mob. And Columbus PD, just a few years prior, had produced a document linking Leslie Wexner to the mob and his network in the murder of the lawyer for the Limited, Arthur Shapiro. And in that document, they detailed extensive ties of Wexner to organized crime affiliates. And as I noted in my book, citing Catherine Austin Fitts, she was at at an event and overheard a government official say that Leslie Wexner was one of the main launderers for organized crime cash flows in the United States. And this is something, as I've detailed in my book, that Epstein was very involved with this network that involves organized crime and intelligence, specifically in allowing them to illicitly move funds and in money laundering. And so, I mean, arguably Epstein was a front for that for Leslie Wexner. And this is stuff that they absolutely will, they just can't touch with a 10-foot pole without massive reverberations, for the national security state of the U.S., which has been beholden to this, I guess, shadow government of sorts in which Epstein operated, but he was a middleman for it. He was not the head of it. And so until there's an investigation into the people behind Epstein, including Wexner, and justice there, I think most of what we're going to end up seeing is going to be superficial, and maybe more will be admitted or discovered in these Epstein files, but don't expect the government to necessarily do anything.
What is genuinely new to you in these files that you maybe didn't know before? What changes the story? And what's just like maybe repackaged material that you've known for a long time?
So, I haven't had a chance to, I mean, it's like millions of files, so I can't really speak to the whole dump and say, but it's definitely corroborated a lot of things that I've reported in the past. That's Israeli intelligence stuff. I've been working on a story on and off since 2023 that I'm actually about to release, but it was about this sheik who has now been noted as having been redacted by the DOJ, who was sending torture videos to Epstein. I was following that guy for a while, and then Drop Site published emails between them last fall, and now there's even more that are just extremely disturbing this time. So that really opens up that story even more, and I'm actually kind of glad that I ended up waiting a couple of years to publish it, just because it'll be more comprehensive now, because that's a story that really goes back to the Bush administration, and not a lot has been said about Epstein in his time at the Bush administration. Allegedly, the Sweetheart deal, received approval from higher ups in the Bush administration. According to Nick Bryant, it was either former Attorney General Alberto Gonzales or it was George W. Bush himself. And if you look at that particular relationship, it was going on in the Bush administration and may have had a role in the Bushes wanting, or Gonzales potentially wanting to keep the heat, or help keep the heat off of Jeffrey Epstein. But there's a lot of things, and it's hard to cover them all, because for a long time, it should have been pretty clear to people that have followed this case closely that there are a lot of different angles, because Epstein had a lot of interest and directed money to a lot of different avenues. So one example is transhumanism. Another is his interest in eugenics. These are reflected in the emails that have been released, his interest in cryptocurrency and stable coins and Bitcoin, things of that nature. I mean, really any other angle you want to talk about from, the period these emails cover is reflected in there. But what's interesting is that there aren't a lot of emails from the early 2000s when some of the stuff with the Bush administration that I'll be publishing a report on soon were going on. And some of these new releases paint that in a more interesting light than maybe, say, before their release. So again, I think people are going to continue to find things, because there's, 3 million files or so to dig through. But ultimately, what's going on in this case is you have Epstein fronting for a broader network. And so keeping the focus on Epstein, it's important, obviously, to understand what he was doing, but we have to understand too, and what I've endeavored to show is that he was fronting for a larger group that still very much have their claws over the U.S. government, and obviously the future of the U.S. and much more. And so we should pay attention to that, and also not become so distracted by searching for things in the files that we, ignore the fact that, for example, Israel, who is very involved with Epstein and allegedly used contraband and blackmail to manipulate U.S. policy, has been trying for decades to get the U.S. to go to war with Iran on that behalf. That could very well happen. So let's not forget to pay attention to other things and be, fall into get distracted at a time when, the people that Epstein helped serve, among other groups, might be finally getting what they want at a major cost for American lives and money, and obviously other civilian lives, among other things. I guess there's a lot more I could say too, but ultimately, I think there's a lot more needs to be done in investigating Epstein's activities as it relates to finances. There's a lot of ties to various financial crises, efforts to short currencies around the world. He was a known Forex trader. He worked with a lot of currency traders and had connections to them. People like Jimmy Goldsmith, for example. And others that were referred to by the New York Times in the 90s as a cabal of, currency traders that were basically destroying whole economies. And pretty much everyone in that cabal has ties to the Rothschild banking dynasty, which Epstein in these recent files acknowledge he represents. But that's quite clear that was the case. If you read my book, Robert Maxwell openly fronted for them, among other interests. And so if we don't follow these threads, as I've been saying, away from Epstein and higher up, he was being puppeteered by people, and he was obviously of use to them. I think the narrative that Epstein was an idiot and all of this, maybe he didn't use good grammar in emails, but he was obviously sought out for his abilities in, illicit finance and, smuggling, among other things. So I think, it's important to keep all of that in mind if we actually want to understand what was going in here and have any meaningful pursuit of justice.
Yeah.